Welcome to the Liberty Lighthouse Podcast. I'm your host, Trevor Fye.
And I'm Patrick Fiel. Before we start out with the show and getting into the nitty-gritties of the news of the week, I do want to direct your attention. We have made both posts on Facebook and our Twitter about our endorsement of Austin Peterson for the Missouri Senate seat. He will be replacing
Claire McCaskill.
who is...
She's an awful Democrat. Democrats don't even like her.
I have some stronger words, but Trevor said that I have to calm down my swearing.
Yes.
So, diving into the news, we are going to be updating a story we talked about last week, my favorite story of the week, Equifax. Because, what's better than a private company losing over half of the adult population's social security numbers, addresses, copies of driver's license, and other, important information. And just to understand, like, the extent of how big the credit reporting agency. I want to remind you, this is not just like if you've applied for loans. You get your credit ran when you apply for a job. You get your credit ran when you get a cell phone. You get your credit ran anytime you open up a checking account. You get your credit ran when you get an apartment. So getting loans is not just when you have your credit ran. It is almost impossible to live in a country. You would have to never rent out a house, never buy a house, never have a job, never get a cell phone, unless you, or actually you could go prepaid, to not have your credit ran in this country. Obviously, the biggest being not getting a job.
This is like a little off topic, but prepaid phones are the way to go, man.
Okay, maybe prepaid phones.
I don't have a prepaid phone, but man, I love how it works.
Yeah, I mean, but the problem is that most people would like a nicer phone, and
right,
and it's really hard to get prepaid unless you buy it outright. So that means you have to have $800 ready to go. But again, also for example, nearly every job I've had, they had to run my credit before giving me a job.
It's a trust thing.
Yeah, absolutely, and then So that's just something, people renting apartments, even if you're not buying a house, like where you need to get a loan to run your credit, they still need to run your credit before getting an apartment. And so it's something, it's one of those things where I'm not as libertarian maybe as I should be about it, simply because of the fact that, with any other product, you can say, oh, well, I'm just not going to use it if I don't trust that company. You cannot not use Equifax.
Yeah, it's such like a big. I mean, what did you say? 150 million people.
144.
144. Well, regardless, that's a very, very rough estimate of half the United States population.
Yeah, it's right around about 51.5 to 52% of the adult population.
Yeah, it's. And you and I both have our disagreements on credit. So very specifically.
Well, again, it's not even with credit reporting. It has nothing to do necessarily with loans. Like
right, and that's like the really big topic about this is it affects everybody.
For example, I was talking to my cousin. He got a letter saying that they looked like his information was lost. He's like, I never had a loan, but they ran his credit when they got his job, so therefore that shows up. He got a checking account, to put money in, and they ran his credit also. He got a phone, and they ran his credit. And so this is not just affecting people that had loans. So saying, well, I don't use Equifax, that's you
wrong,
yeah. So again, actually, I'm going to dive into the story, and then I'm going to give my disclaimers again.
Yeah, definitely.
So Rick Smith, who was the CEO of Equifax, he resigned. Big shock there.
Yeah. Man, resignation's hitting hard this week.
Yeah. So at the University of Georgia on August 15th, I'm gonna quote him a little bit. He gave a speech at the Terry College of Business, and he frequently talked about security issues. He said, when you have the size of the database we have, it's attractive for others to try to get into a database. So that is a huge priority for us. And so he's talking about how hacking happens and such. And he says, it's my number one concern about the safeties of our people. He gave that speech in that interim. Remember how I said it took him over a month to talk about how they had a security hacked. He knew that their company had been hacked, but it still was before it got released that his company was hacked.
Dude, what? Come on, bro.
Okay, and now there's a big news out of this. The new interim CEO, what was his name? Let me double check. Paulino de Rego Barros Jr. He is their interim CEO, and he has announced that they're going to be launching a credit lock program in January. Now, this is an interesting growing business right now with TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, the three credit bureaus. They're starting to launch what's called credit locking. As you remember, maybe last episode, I talked about how some people should consider having a credit freeze, where basically you get your credit locked down and no one can run your credit. Credit locking is a little bit more difficult. So credit freezing is something mandated by the government that credit bureaus have to offer. It's also one of the few things that I actually kind of agree that the government should mandate, because again, credit bureau is one of the few things that I think maybe are not solved by the free market. Now, what I don't like also is that they make you pay to get your credit froze. But they're offering credit locking, which is a bit different.
Now, I have a quick question.
Yes.
What gives me any incentive to trust these people with more information to shut this down?
Shut what down?
Credit locking.
So credit locking, no, this is not.
Yeah, because I'm not into financing too much.
So that's actually an interesting debate about credit freezing versus credit locking, because of the way credit freezing runs in the United States. Let's say they do end up giving your information out, you can sue them for it. Credit locking, you can't. Credit locking, because of the way that it's regulated, credit freezes are regulated by the federal government, and states that if something happens, you have the right to sue the other companies for that because they did not do so. Now, one of the things that's interesting about that, though, is that credit locking, basically how it works, when you credit freeze, you call the company, you have a PIN number that they give you, and by the way, you have to remember that, because if you don't remember that, your credit's just never being unfroze. Like, there is not a failsafe, which is interesting. Credit freezes, though, you can install an app on your phone, and like, let's say, you're about to have your credit ran, you can open it up and it's instantaneous. Credit freezes can take 24 to 48 hours to be lifted temporarily, and then you have to put them back down, and every single time you put it back down, you have to pay another fee for it. Credit locking, you pay a monthly subscription fee to the service. Right now, TransUnion and Experian offer this, and Equifax is going to be offering this. Basically, go download the Equifax app on your phone. And also, by the way, it is important, and this is what makes it so difficult, especially with these monthly subscription costs, because, for example, TransUnion, I decided to look it up, it's $20 a month.
So they want me to pay, quick math,
$60, assuming that they have the same prices for each, which is, because you have to do it through three bureaus.
$20 a month. What? Man, come on.
But the thing is, and the convenience is that you can lift it instantaneous. So let's say you're walking into your bank, you're going to go get a loan. As you're walking in, you can unlock it, and as soon as you're done running your credit, you can lock it back up again. But with that, you get that convenience there, where credit freezing, you generally pay about $10 to $15. Again, it varies from company to company, which is something very interesting, considering the fact that they have an oligopoly on this. I'm kind of surprised that they're not all charging the same prices, but they're not, because again, you have to use all three. And so that's an interesting one. What do you think about this, Trevor?
I don't really trust financial institutions too much. I prefer alternative currencies, like e-currencies.
Bitcoin.
Exactly. Bitcoin and gold and silver. Yeah, free the market for your medium of currency and stuff.
Yeah.
So, the like I'm not a big financial guy, so like when I just see Equifax, I automatically it's like boom, I don't trust it. So I guess as a consumer who is not very well educated on the financial world, I wouldn't trust anything Equifax is trying to give me. So I think maybe what needs to happen is a little more public education, which I'm not sure how you're going to mandate that, but I'm very skeptical to actually trust Equifax to do this.
And that's the thing, is the way our country is, the way credit works, the way the credit bureaus are, is that you have to use their services, and they know you don't understand how it works. Like, I found out, so by law, you are able to get your credit report once per year, annualcreditreport.com, which, by the way, I highly recommend you pull your own credit report from annualcreditreport.com, because if you see accounts on there that you don't recognize, you have to fight that. And also, what's really great is that right now, it's unlikely that if, at least from the Equifax breach, that you have necessarily any falsified things on your account. But you need to look at it and see, so that you have a reference point and say, this is what it is, and then pull it in a year from now. And if there's things you don't recognize, then that most likely means that the Equifax breach caused you some sort of, problem. And you then, you can definitely go into some sort of lawsuit with Equifax, even if it's just small claims court. And you can also dispute things on your credit report, which is a good process to use. The other thing I wanted to talk about that I found out about, a viewer of ours pointed out to me that I did not mention last episode. As you know, Equifax allowed you to go on their website and type in the last 6 of your social to look up to see if they believe your information may have been lost. But in the little tiny letters, terms of conditions, by looking on your website, you agree that you are not able to be part of a class action lawsuit.
Oh, come
against
on.
Equifax.
Come on. See, this is why I don't trust them at all. So anything they're offering, I won't trust.
So
wow.
I really, honestly, I cannot stress to anybody enough. Pull your credit report. Use your rights. You have a right to get a credit report. Use them. Look at what it is. If there's something you don't recognize, you need to fight that, because someone's tanking your credit, which, again, as I said, can affect getting just cell phones, housing, a job. Like someone could use your credit, lock up credit card debt by applying for credit cards in your names, and the next thing you know, you found out you couldn't get a job because someone messed with your credit. So look at your credit report, annualcreditreport.com.
Or just use gold, silver, and Bitcoin.
But even then, you want to rent an apartment.
Pay cash. Live in the middle of nowhere.
You want to get a job?
Fish for a living. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, it's just crazy. So
I'd be down to fish for a living.
Well, I think commercial fish farmers are gonna have you beat.
Yeah, probably.
Alrighty.
All right.
So, Trevor, are we gonna be talking about Roy Moore?
Yeah, it's kind of surprised me going into the election, and I think it was Tuesday night. I was like, you know what? I kind of don't care. I don't really like either one of these guys. But former Alabama State Supreme Court Justice Roy Moore pulled out a pretty impressive victory. Like, it was around 10 points, I think he beat Luther Strange by.
Okay, I'm already interrupting, but the idea of Roy Moore winning kind of was I thought maybe he'll pull it off. I was listening to reports, but he won by a shocking margin.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna continue with the story because I have a lot of opinions on this. Just a background in case you haven't been paying attention to the great state of Alabama. Roy Moore is an ultra-conservative Christian Republican who was removed from Alabama State Supreme Court not once but twice. The first time he got removed for it was because he refused for his Ten Commandments statue thing at the state court to be removed. He refused it because a federal court found that it violated the Establishment Clause from the First Amendment. Then the second time happened when he encouraged state officials to ignore the federal ban on discriminating against same-sex marriage. I mean, when you think conservative Southern person, you should think Roy Moore. That's just automatically what comes up. And he's had tons of controversy since. I don't want to get into it too much just because this is such a highly controversial man. But, and he is not the senator yet. Luther Strange is still acting as senator. This just determined the Republican nominee for the December 12th special election because Jeff Sessions, of course, left to be Attorney General.
I don't think Jeff Sessions will be Attorney General for that much longer.
That's an entire different topic. He's going to face Democrat Doug Jones. I don't really personally know much about him.
Doug.
Maybe he's going to be like a Frank Underwood Southern Democrat.
Dude, are you about to tell me that I'm going to be supporting a Democrat?
No.
I mean, I really don't like Roy Moore. So.
And this is where I kind of want to get into our discussion. This really sucks for the establishment Republicans. Mitch McConnell's guy got destroyed.
Mitch McConnell can go fuck himself.
But yeah, that's Mitch McConnell. Yeah, and what I want to ask you, I guess, does this win in the GOP primary? What does this spell for primaries moving forward?
So I think Trump winning already made it look like, okay, we might have some big shakeups in 2018, and what happened was that as his term kept going, it started thinking, okay, maybe Trump's the anomaly because of his lower approval numbers. But I think this Roy Moore win, cements we are going to see primary shocks. In our great state of Michigan, we're already showing that Kid Rock may become senator, and that would be definitely a shock to the more establishment candidate of right now John James, but I think we're going to see some more
right now. There's John James, there's Bob Young, he's running, and then Laura. I can't remember her first name, but her last name's Epstein. But I think she's jumping out of the race to run for Congress in her district.
I honestly right now. I would not be surprised. And
then Fred Upton, our congressman's considering a bid at it.
Yeah, I don't.
I heard he was 99%, of the way there. I heard he was very close to announcing.
I heard. I started hearing that too, but I heard that he backed down because he realizes he's not going to win.
He might not win Congress at this point.
Yeah, he's really unpopular. But I'm starting to think, though, with this Senate race, I think that Michigan... Okay, we're getting a little off topic, but really quick. I'm thinking that Michigan still may elect a Democrat because, I don't know. But then again, it is a very unpopular Democrat, so it may go. But I think the governor race in 2018 is going to go to Gretchen Whitmer. She's getting really popular. She is really grassroots. She's kind of the Bernie Sanders type of Democrat. She's not Hillary Clinton. She's very populist, actually. If you hear her speak, she's very, non-PC, very populist. She's far more. She's kind of more of a more, Frank Underwood, more Southern Democrat. She's focused on taxation. She's focused on jobs. She's focused on regulation to protect workers. I don't agree with a lot of her policies, but I think that she's going to pull off the governor race. So state of Michigan is just going to be entirely...
I haven't been able to pay attention too much on the Democratic side because I'm heavily involved in what's going on the Republican side of things, and this is going to be a very ugly primary.
Yeah,
this isn't just the state of... This is...
Are you on for Senate or governor?
Both. I think both it's going to turn out. And I think Senate, it's going to depend a lot, honestly, if Robert Ritchie, Kid Rock, does decide to run.
I think that's definitely very, very good.
Because I was just listening to one of his songs. I am an actual fan of his music. I like it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so just so you know, after last week's episode, I turned on Kid Rock, and Trevor and I totally started rocking out to Kid Rock. But besides the point.
But I mean, in Kid Rock, he is a very odd Republican. I've looked a little bit into his policies. He's a much different kind of, quote, conservative. And it's to the point where I don't want to call him a straight libertarian, but he has a lot of libertarian
I don't know.
leanings.
He's been talking about, the way he's been talking about possibly, like, people should get locked up for, like, disrespecting the flag and stuff.
Well, that's more of just... I'm not trying to, like, confuse it, but there is a large percent of the population who very...
Not libertarians.
Well, I've seen a few who aren't very thrilled with that. But, okay, I don't want to talk about the flag stuff. Anyway, let's get back to Alabama.
Okay.
The big thing that I think in the Alabama race, right now, like, some very early polls have come out between Doug Jones and Roy Moore. It's looking to be a close race.
So you don't think Luther Strange is going to try and run independent or anything, do you?
No. Strange
he's Republican born and bred?
Yeah. Strange won't run. But it's really interesting because there's chatter. And I personally think Roy Moore is going to win. It's Alabama. But there's some chatter that this seat might flip blue. I want to ask, do you think this seat flips blue?
I can't say because I don't know Doug Jones's policies enough. I think it would kind of depend, but this is Alabama. And one of the things that I thought was interesting is that the fact that Trump endorsed Luther Strange in Alabama went hardcore Trump during this shows.
Well, I heard Trump was, like, furious about that.
I think it shows this new wave of Republicans. They are not Trump Republicans. They are anti-establishment Republicans. If you listen to some of the people that voted for Roy Moore, they did vote for Trump, but they did not necessarily even enthusiastically vote for Trump. They just wanted someone anti-establishment. They're not super thrilled with Trump's policies, but they are anti-establishment, and Trump's base may not be as loyal to Trump as they are just loyal to anti-establishmentism. And we're going to go into the Tom Price story soon, but I think that fact that he keeps on having these, the people he called the swamp in his cabinet, I think that is going to hurt him more than anything else. I don't think his, some may say, disrespectful statements about women are going to hurt him. I don't think his non-PC, his somewhat irresponsibility, I don't know how to say it the best. I don't think that's going to kill it from it. What is going to kill him is him not being drain the swamp. I think that people underestimate that. Maybe that his base is even more enthusiastic about draining the swamp than build the wall.
Well, and I will actually agree with you right there, because what we have right now in Washington, and we're going to get into this later, but the Republicans are fractured, and it is very clear and obvious. There are like three different ways it's fractured. You have your establishment, you have your semi-democrats, then you have your libertarians. And you can pretty much tell who lies where each way.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes I think it might be a little bit harder because of the fact that there are some, though. And then, because then there's it's almost like there's like a grid. So you have like those three categories, and then you also still have establishment and anti-establishment. So for example, I would say Trump's policy-wise lies on the almost Democrat, but then you talk about whether he's obviously anti-establishment. But then you also have some people like, for example, Rand Paul. He's obviously very libertarian, but he's somewhat establishment. He's career politician.
No, he's not. This is his second term.
Well, he acts like a career politician.
How does he act like a career politician?
He's polite. He doesn't shout.
That doesn't
grab
mean
women.
anything. That does not mean. Rand Paul is not some. Oh my God! You just angered me so much. No, take that back about Mr. Paul.
Okay,
that's
fine.
totally disrespectful.
Fine.
This is his second term as a senator, and how is he a career politician?
Well, I
How?
guess I tied him up more with Ron Paul than maybe I should have. Well, Ron Paul's a good. He's a career politician. He's even said that he did, the big donor calls and such.
Well, it's politics. You have to go after big money. You have to.
Well, Trump didn't.
Okay, here's the difference. Trump had free advertising 24/7. That's why he won the election. But when every single news network blasts your face for 23 hours a day, taking 1 hour off for like some random cartoon, you're going to win an election. I don't care who you are.
Hillary Clinton didn't.
But she wasn't put on every news network for 23 hours a day.
Well, she's been on every news network for the last 3 decades.
She means nothing now. No.
Yeah, she's selling her books in Costco.
All right.
But I definitely think that there's going to be, there's this definitely fracturing, but then there's fracturing in the Democrat Party. You still have your.
But they still, because they're an opposition party, it doesn't look like it. I mean, the Republicans were the same way during Obama.
And then if Democrats, make they're going to be fractured too because of the fact that they have something to unify against. They're so anti-Trump. But you still have,
unless you're Claire McCaskill and you're trying to like really save your Senate seat because it's guaranteed she's gonna lose, unless some very controversial thing like her last race. What was it?
Roy Moore. Rape? I don't know how.
Whoever Claire McCaskill's opponent was, I think he made a comment on like something about legitimate rape, and that you lose elections on that stuff. Well, Claire McCaskill has gotten so lucky.
Roy Moore literally said, like 2 years ago, that he thinks bestiality is the same as gay sex.
What?
Yes. No joke. Watch the clip of it. In 2015, he said it. He said it about a decade ago, and then someone asked him, about like, do you still believe that bestiality is the same as gay sex? And he said, absolutely.
Okay, I'm done talking about Roy Moore. Let's move on to your next story. Wow.
Okay.
This episode's just so far gone at this point.
Everything about our lives are so far gone. All right, so I think we are going to talk about the travel ban. Now, this is an interesting, really, really interesting updated version of the travel ban. Notably, North Korea is on it.
Hey.
So if we look at, sorry, CNN wanted me to enable a pop-up blocker, but I'm not going to. So, Sudan was removed from the travel ban. Venezuela was added to the travel ban. North Korea was added to the travel ban. And then Chad was added to the travel ban. Which is the most interesting.
Can I point something out real quick about this entire travel ban thing?
What?
Don't get me wrong. I want to preserve American culture and all that stuff. But if you're actively trying to get out of a socialist country, those are the people we should be helping. If someone wants... I mean, you don't see people fleeing capitalist countries on random floats. You only see that from socialist countries. So this is where I'm going to disagree with the president, especially on immigration. If you're coming from some communist hellhole and you want to experience free market capitalism, why not come to the United States? I want to see his thought process here, because we as Americans generally have a very we want to help people sort of attitude. Well, there are currently countries sitting in the middle of this horrible communist socialist regime in both North Korea and in Venezuela. I think they could use some help. I am not very thrilled with banning stuff, or not stuff, but people coming from socialist country. I don't personally like that.
Well, Venezuela is very interesting in that it's not about immigrants. It is only certain Venezuelan government officials and their immediate family members as non-immigrants on some business and tourist visas are the ones that are suspended for Venezuela. But this is not just general civilians. This is government people, which is very interesting. That actually, we're talking about diplomats and stuff that are just banned from the United States, from Venezuela.
See, and that's another poor way to go about things. Because, I mean, diplomacy is obviously option number one. Because if you fail diplomatically, you're going to a war. So, I don't see how I could agree with a travel ban on this stuff. I think that diplomacy and helping people coming from communist and socialist horrible areas need a little bit of help.
So let's talk about Chad.
Okay, yeah.
I think
because that one confused me when I saw that on the list.
Just to remind you, the generals in the military have actually said that Chad is one of our biggest allies right now. For example, they said that they is an important and valuable counterterrorism partner of the U.S. The U.S. looks forward to expanding that cooperation, including the areas of immigration and border management. They are an ally of the United States, and notably, they were helping to weed out people that they believed in their neighboring country of Sudan to be threats to the United States, and they worked with that. But yet, Sudan was removed from the travel ban,
and Chad
got added with the only thing people.
Was South Sudan included? Are they officially recognized? Because I know South Sudan is actually a Christian country, and that's part of the reason they left.
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't see anything.
Okay, it doesn't specify. That's fine.
But the reason the people have been, a lot of journalists and stuff like that have been asking, like, why Chad? And the only statement that the White House has placed on it is that Chad has failed to adequately share public safety and terrorism-related information. And that's it. That's all we have. That's
again not a good reason to do stuff.
China has very much not adequately helped the United States, but
the immigration was one of the number one areas I disagreed with our president on, and if I'm right, isn't this case going to the Supreme Court or something? They
always go to the Supreme Court. Honestly, it's always going to.
Because I'm pretty sure, I don't know, sometime when they start in October, it's going to be on the list. Because I believe Supreme Court pops back into session next week.
But the thing is that these travel bans, they are not being viewed as updated. They are being viewed as 3 different laws. Each version of the travel ban is seen separate instead of updates to the other. So, do you want to laugh at some liberal nonsense?
Oh, of course.
Okay, I am. Let me see here. I apologize. Okay, so Anthony D. Romero, the executive director of the ACLU. Oh, by the way, one thing, obviously, if you guys know these countries well enough, but maybe you don't. But Venezuela and North Korea are not Muslim countries. And so, a lot of people said, this is not a Muslim. So, Anthony D. Romero said 6 of President Trump's targeted countries are Muslim. The fact that Trump has added North Korea with few visitors to the U.S. and a few government officials from Venezuela doesn't obfuscate the real fact that the administration's order is still a Muslim ban. President Trump's original sin of targeting Muslims cannot be cured by throwing other countries onto his enemies list. Basically saying, just because he hates non-Muslims doesn't negate the fact that he really actually just hates Muslims.
Yeah. This entire he's not banning any sort of religion. He is banning countries that
are all on terrorism watch lists.
Right.
Plus Venezuela.
Right. And I want to mention that for whatever reason, Saudi Arabia isn't included on the list.
Because he loves Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, well, I don't. But it's I really don't. What?
I just remembered we should talk about a big story out of Saudi Arabia this week.
Oh, yes. You see, Saudi Arabia is this great country where they like to fund terrorist groups and then finally gave women the right to drive.
This week. Congratulations, women in Saudi Arabia. You may still have nearly no rights, but
at least you can drive your husband's new Bugatti. God.
I woke up in a new Bugatti.
Stop.
So let's So the just so yeah, I mean that's the Muslim. That's the I just said the Muslim ban. That's the travel ban. It doesn't really matter. But just kind of side story. Yes, Saudi Arabian women have to drive. We didn't really do a big story on that because I don't know. I mean, there's not really much to say on it. It's still a country where women have nearly no rights. They're not allowed to leave without guardians. They're not allowed to go to sports games at all. They're banned from sports arenas. They have to have guardians to leave the country. It is still a massive violator of human rights, and I cannot believe that. The only reason we get along with them is that they sell us a crap ton of oil.
Yeah, and in return we sell them weapons that they bomb in Yemen.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I mean that's
the extent of the relationship right there.
This is the reason why people should go to electric cars, but
Okay, I still like my diesel trucks and stuff.
Well, just know that you're funding terrorism.
Ooh, ouch! All right.
Alrighty. So.
Are we ready to talk about tax reform? Finally, something that I can get happy about. All right.
Taxation is theft.
All right, so Republicans are actually putting forward a decent tax plan. I'm just going to give the rundown of it, then I'm going to, again, go on to some random tangent. So right now we have 7 tax brackets. The proposed plan is going to be 12%, 25%, and 35% for individuals' incomes. The standard deductions double to 24% for married couples and 12% for single people. And then there's a call for a higher child tax credit, which right now it's around $1,000. I didn't really find where it's going to be, but they're asking for a higher one.
I mean, word around the block has been around $1,500.
Okay. But unfortunately, it eliminates the deductions for state and local taxes. So I'm not a big fan of that, but
I feel like that is going to be interesting because basically that is going to hurt people living in cities more. Mm-hmm. Because you look at places like Chicago, Detroit, New York, they have really high local taxes, but people like me that
live in a town of 800 people.
We don't have local. Yeah. I'm actually technically not even living in a municipality. I live just in the county.
And let me finish off. Business tax is going to be lowered to 25%. I'm a big fan of that. It eliminates some business deductions and tax credits. And again, I love attacking leftists. The media, which is left wing, it's no secret, they are making this out to be a horrible thing that just benefits the 1%. It actually kind of benefits everybody. Mm-hmm. I mean, John F. Kennedy, who is a Democrat, ladies and gentlemen, said, and this
are
is
you
an actual
sure?
quote. This is an actual quote. Okay, stop talking for a second.
Okay.
I know what you're about to say. We'll get into that debate later. Democrat John F. Kennedy said, every dollar released from taxation that is spent or invested will help create a new job and a new salary. Guys, this is the Democrat. This is like 40-something years, closer to 50 actually. But where did it change? Well, it's Lyndon B. Johnson. That's where it changed. But
okay. Now, just to be fair, FDR before him was I think John F. Kennedy was more an anomaly than anything.
John F. Kennedy was the best Democrat and the second best president ever.
I truly believe that because of the time period he run in, no Republican could have won. Republicans were barely a party at that point, and so I feel like he would have ran as a Republican.
Well, today?
Oh, any other time in history.
Yeah.
So,
but
are you sure John F. Kennedy was a Democrat?
Man, but do you like the tax plan?
I do. So, I don't know if you ended up watching that video I sent you.
You didn't. You never sent me the video.
Oh, yeah. So Philip DeFranco, one of my favorite YouTubers, he owns his own company. He has his own company. He has his own media company, and he said himself, he's honestly, as a small business owner, I love this. He's paying 40% of taxes right now, and he has 6 employees. It's a small business that he's paying 40% taxes on, and one of the things he said, he's like, honestly, I can say that as long as this tax plan goes through, I will be hiring more people. Like, I will be able to hire. He said, we wanted to get a host for this new show we're working on, but we can't really pay anybody, and I am not the right person to host it. But I will be able to hire a new show. I will be able to create a new show, therefore creating more revenue, therefore being able to hire more editors. And, this will be able to help people.
Yeah, I've never understood why cutting taxes is such a difficult thing to do in this country.
Because then you do look at corporations, though. Like playing devil's advocate, there are a lot of corporations that just don't need more staffing. They will just be able to give bigger bonuses to those top people.
And that's their right to do.
That's absolutely... Okay, don't get me wrong. Absolutely,
I know.
That is their right.
I'm playing with the devil's advocate.
Yeah, I mean, that is their right to do, but there is certain, as Philip DeFranco said, he was just like, I'm a little conflicted on this because Philip DeFranco's not like a hardcore libertarian. He's definitely more of a moderate, but he was just like, honestly, all I care about is that my business is getting a tax deduction. If we wanted to do every business owned by Philip DeFranco gets a tax deduction, everybody else wants to go F themselves, I'll be okay with that too.
Now, this is far from my ideal tax plan. I like a 10% flat income tax. Well, flat tax everywhere. But, see, this is different from, the healthcare story, which we'll do in a few minutes. But, taxes, I am more willing to say, you know what, let's meet somewhere in the middle as long as we're cutting. I like this plan. I really hope it passes. I have no idea what the vote count's going to be.
Also, some other things that you didn't mention, but the estate tax has been eliminated.
Ooh.
The pass-through tax has been eliminated. So basically, let's say... basically there was a thing where companies were going to get taxed, and the money you make from businesses you own, whether it be you own a share of it, you're on a board of directors, or it's a small business that you own the entirety of it, there was an additional tax. So the business got taxed, and then the money came to you. There was the pass-through tax, and then you still got it, but you got it taxed higher than normal income tax, and that tax has been removed. And so basically money that you make from a business is taxed at the normal individual income tax.
All right. But yeah, that's all I have. It's just a plan. Hopefully it gets out there. Hopefully the Republicans can actually pass a bill, but I am far from confident that it'll happen. Well, okay, I'm not far from confident. I'm just skeptical it'll happen.
Republicans nowadays make us all shocked by how unconservative they can be.
Right.
So, Trevor?
Yes, sir.
Are you ready to talk about Tom Price?
I am.
So, Tom Price, I'm sure you guys all keep up on who the newest health secretary is. He has been canned. Another one of Trump's successful cabinet members or members of his administration that have been fired. And can we just have a moment of silence of everybody who has been fired by Trump in his so far short presidency?
No, they can't. I actually really don't care.
I still miss Spicy.
Sean Spicer, man. Although Huckabee's doing a good job.
Huckabee's going to do a good job, but that's the problem. Sean Spicer didn't do a good job, and it was what's so funny about it. No, who I really miss is the Mooch. Anthony Scaramucci. He was on The View earlier.
Wow. All right, so why did Mr. Price have to resign?
So, Tom Price, even though he's only been health secretary for a short time, he managed to spend $400,000 on chartering private flights for his meetings and whatnot. Now, the thing is, this is not his own personal money, or else I would not have cared. But no, he was using taxpayer money to charter himself private flights, in which, again, cost over $400,000, in which he said, I will pay $52,000 because that was the amount worth of my own seat. Well, honey, you didn't use just one seat. You chartered the whole gosh darn plane.
Right.
One of the things is that also, the thing is that when I heard this, I heard Tom Price was fired, and at first I didn't hear about it. I'm like, oh, well, yeah. Because if you remember, Tom Price, when he was hired a couple months ago, Trump famously said he better get them when it came to the tax plan, or otherwise I'll say, Tom, you're fired. Well, Tom Price has been health secretary. There's been 2 attempts at repealing Obamacare, neither one successful. And so Trump said he was going to fire him, and he was already upset about Tom Price. There's been a lot of reports that that he's been just really upset because Tom Price was leading point. So, for example, when you hear like the White House said this or the White House said that, honestly, a lot of times it wasn't Trump. It was Tom. Trump actually had, relatively little involvement in the actual healthcare plans, but Tom Price was pretty much representing Trump at these meetings. So, what do you think about this, Trevor?
I mean, like you said, it all comes down to whose money were you using. You weren't using your money, therefore you're using our money, therefore resign. Yeah. It's a relatively straightforward, you sucked, you did something wrong, you got caught, now he wasn't fired officially, but now he's no longer working at the White House. So it's...
He wasn't fired. Trump asked for his resignation.
Uh-huh.
I gotta wonder, do you think Trump actually says, you're fired? I mean, he kind of like...
I really, honestly, like, to my heart, I hope he does.
Because that's like what he was known for.
Yeah.
I just okay, so a little bit of deviation. I love watching, like, I sometimes forget how famous Trump was before this whole thing. For example, I was watching one of my favorite shows, The Office, the other day, and you notice Michael Scott, the regional manager, he has all of Trump's book there, and he was like, he had like Think Like a Billionaire, and all those other ones, and he was told to fire someone, and he was just like practicing, and he was like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to let you go, and he was like, you're fired, and he was like, see, but I couldn't be like Trump. My catchphrase would be, you're hired.
Wow. What does that have to do with anything we're talking about?
Talking about firing.
Whatever.
Obviously, you have to talk about The Apprentice.
Wow. I don't keep up on that stuff.
But the other thing is that's kind of big out of the story is that there's been a lot of talk, and this is what I mentioned earlier in the story. There's been a lot of talk that this is, Tom Price is not an anomaly here. There's been a lot of this going on, and people are finding out about it. And it looks like there might be, some big thing where he fires a lot of people because they've been using government funds in ways that he did not approve of. Mm-hmm. Using them to charter planes, using them for expensive meals, things like that. And he specifically said he wanted to drain the swamp, and it looks like he brought the swamp in with him.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll give Trump credit here. He's trying to keep his people accountable.
Yeah,
so
but it's hard to do when you're running the entire country.
Obviously. All right, let's just dive into healthcare. This proposed Graham Cassidy healthcare bill died in the Senate. Thank God. It was an awful bill.
We disagree a bit on that.
But anyway, so... I guess my big issue right now with the GOP is they can't decide if they want to go to an ultra-conservative free market healthcare approach or if they want to just rename Obamacare and say that they actually did something for once. They can't decide what they want to do.
And Trump seems to be like, I don't care, I just want something done.
Yeah. Well, and thank God, Trump is actually looking like he's listening to Rand Paul here because he announced that he's going to sign an executive order that will allow you to purchase health insurance across state lines.
Boo!
Why?
Because I hate executive orders. And if that's
this is
like
a good executive order.
Okay, this is not about whether or not I like DACA, but I don't like that it was an executive order.
Okay, we're gonna disagree on this, but I personally love it. It opens up the market. That's
the thing. I like that. I like that executive order. I just don't like that it is an executive order. If that same thing were to pass through Congress, I would be 100% supporting it.
Congress couldn't pass a bill to name a dog right now. If they got a dog, they couldn't name it.
Yeah, Republicans would want to name the boy dog Doug, and then the Democrats would complain that they're assuming its gender.
Yeah, pretty much. But and this is going to be a big year in 2018 because there are... I think there's one. I think Bob Corker said he's not running, so there's a Republican seat that's going to be open. we need conservatives and libertarians to win. We cannot have more of the same. But for healthcare especially, and every issue, if we don't get actual conservatives in, Obamacare is going to stay. Because Democrats, for whatever reason, they complain so much, but they won't propose an actual bill. Like, okay, I want to see you guys...
They did. Bernie Sanders proposed a universal health care.
Yeah, no, that's horrible. They're not working on an actual bill. They just want to... They're doing what Republicans did while Obama was in office. They're just saying no to everything, but not coming up with their own solutions. I'm going to challenge the Democratic Party. Put up your own bill if you don't like Obamacare. Put up your own bill.
They did.
No, they didn't. What? They had some socialist guy from Vermont, right? That's his home state?
Yeah.
They had him say, we want universal health care. And you know what? That's stupid. It's stupid. Propose an actual bill, because if you say Obamacare has some problems, then propose a bill that fixes those problems.
I honestly think that the Democrats are a little overconfident, and I think that they think that they're going to be able to win back seats in the 2018 election.
And that's hilarious, because they're not. The Democrats suck, because they're staying on the same crap that lost them 2016.
One of the things is, as I was saying, is that I wonder, I honestly feel like I don't want the Republicans to propose another bill right now.
No, I'm done with healthcare.
Yeah, I want to wait till 2018 because I think that we're going to see some more anti-establishment.
Definitely.
We're going to see some more libertarians, and I think 2018 we're going to actually be able to get a decent healthcare bill.
Me too. I'm done with the topic of healthcare because, my guess is you won't see anything proposed in 2017 because, like Ben Shapiro, he pointed out a very good thing. No one wants to do anything controversial going into their election because that's what loses you a seat. Mm-hmm. So Shapiro was spot on right there. But I am just so infuriated by Democrats today because you have all the answers. Where are they? Show me what you're planning. Don't just say universal health care for all, because we know that's an economic disaster.
Well,
Come up with an actual
some Democrats
plan.
Actually are very disagree on that, and I think that that there's also a certain amount of the fact that Democrats proposing universal health care gets them popular with their constituents, and the Republicans keep messing up on health care. I think that. I don't think they're going to win back seats, but I think what they're doing is that if they do, they end up being on really good terms with their voters. So I think, their strategy is not better for the country, but I think right now their strategy is better for politics.
Yeah, and I agree with you there, but I'm so tired of hearing that the Republicans are doing this heartless thing. Come up with an answer then. Show an answer that actually has a little bit of competency. Prove something to me, because I'm so tired of hearing them just complain about everything and not come up with a plan that actually freaking works. Show me something that will correct the issues of Obamacare that you claim you know, and they haven't. They've proposed, I haven't personally seen any universal healthcare thing proposed, but like we have that Paul Clements guy running for like the 95th time for Congress against Upton. Medicare for all? Really? That's your solution? Do you read an economics book? That just doesn't make sense.
I'm pretty sure he's not entirely sure what economics is. He's heard it used, but he's not entirely sure. So is that it as on healthcare?
Yeah. Sorry, I got a little heated there.
You get a little. You guys should see him. He's getting a little feisty right now. So, the big story of the day, and I'm not entirely sure why I chose to do this story last, but Puerto Rico
is a mess, unfortunately.
Yeah, so, interesting update. I actually wrote the entire story for this segment, and then the big thing happened. So basically, Puerto Rico got hit by Hurricane Maria. They were already damaged by Hurricane Irma, and they were already in economic downfall because the entire country's in debt. The Puerto Rican Electrical Authority, which has a monopoly on the electricity in in Puerto Rico was already in debt. Their infrastructure was weak. Especially their electronic. I cannot highlight enough about how Puerto Rico's Electric Authority, which is the company that does electricity for Puerto Rico, was massively in debt and has the worst infrastructure. And so when they got hit by this, the entire country lost electricity.
Wow.
Like, can you even imagine that? Like, imagine if the entire state of Michigan lost electricity. I mean, the entire country did. And so they were using generators for what little they had, but a lot of these hospitals, they just could not afford generators, or they could not afford the gas to fill the generators, and they just had to go dark. And so so there was a lot of talk about the Jones Act, and so we're going to talk about the Jones Act.
Yes, because you tweeted me about it, and I have no idea what that is.
Okay, so the Jones Act says that a ship going from one American port to the next has to be manufactured in America, staffed by American citizens, flying the American flag.
Okay.
Which is nearly impossible because ships are not manufactured in the United States for the most part. This is a very old law. Like, we're talking, this is nearly a century-old law. And it only comes up in really specific circumstances. For example, let's say you wanted to go from the port of in New York to, let's say, Florida. You have to have a ship manufactured in America, which there are very few. Like, we're talking ships are hardly ever manufactured in America, staffed entirely by American citizens, which, remember, this is a manual labor job, which there's not a whole lot of Americans that do those, flying an American flag.
Yeah,
just to go from New York to Florida. Like, you cannot have a foreign ship. So let's say a German company or whatever is trying to deliver to the United States, and they want to go by ship. So they want to go down the ports. They cannot. They could go from, like, Berlin or whatever. I think that's a landlocked city, so I'm not sure I choose that, but that's the only German city I know. But they want to go from Germany to New York. They can, but they cannot then go from New York to another port.
Quick question. Did you study Gary Johnson's geography class?
Yeah, basically.
All right. Yeah, this act definitely, now that I know a little bit about it, it just seems kind of petty.
So therefore,
Yeah, fix it. I mean, even waive it. If you want to just waive the law.
Well,
don't enforce it.
It is enforced. But President Trump temporarily lifted the Jones Act.
Dude, Trump's picked up so much crap over this Puerto Rico. He's doing everything he can.
There's really not as, but this will really help. But, like, for example, there were, like, nearly 50 ships that were, like, waiting in New York or in New Jersey and stuff like that wanted to deliver things like for example, they wanted to deliver, like, there was a ship that was trying to deliver gasoline from, I think it was New Jersey to Puerto Rico, because they can't fly into the country right now because, again, the country does not have electricity, therefore does not have airports manned to land planes. And so the only real way to get stuff in there right now is through ports, and they could not. They were turned away because the ship was not manufactured in America.
Wow. That's
This law should not exist. Like, I'm glad. The idea was years ago, when ship manufacturing jobs were leaving the United States, to try and keep ship manufacturing jobs in the United States. But we are just not that country anymore. We live in a global economic situation, and we do not manufacture everything here. We do not staff places with entirely American ships, especially considering the fact that, generally, if you want to deliver something from one American city to another, you generally just take planes or truck drivers take it there. They don't tend to use boats to go down the coast, but occasionally they do. And this just causes a whole situation.
Yeah, I'm glad that the act isn't being enforced right now.
It's only not being enforced still in Puerto Rico.
Right.
So, for example, let's say you wanted to take something, from New York to Florida right now for Hurricane Irma relief. You cannot. If it's not a ship manufactured in the United States, staffed by Americans, flying an American flag.
Does this apply to, waterways within the United States? Because the Atlantic Ocean's, I'm assuming, is different legally than, Lake Michigan.
They say ports, so I don't know. I don't.
Because I was going to say, try to find a loophole and maybe use the Mississippi River. If that's possible.
Yeah, but the Mississippi River doesn't flow right down to Florida. It goes off in
right.
Louisiana.
I know how it flows, but you can still go down. I mean, we have to easily can power a boat to go down there.
Yeah, but generally these are huge cargo barges, so they can't really.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but it's an interesting situation.
For sure.
And President Trump did declare that the Puerto Rico is a major disaster area, which makes it eligible for FEMA funds. And so it's gonna be very interesting to see what's happening. One thing that happened is Donald Trump tweeted this morning, because basically the mayor of San Juan said that Trump was not doing enough.
I've heard about
and let me see here. He basically called her stupid. I don't remember what it was. I'm trying to look in here. So, first thing, by the way, Donald Trump is visiting Puerto Rico on Tuesday.
Yes.
But also, as he said, the fake news networks are working overtime in Puerto Rico, doing their best to take the spirit away from our soldiers and first responders. Shame. Despite the fake news media in conjunction with the Dems, an amazing job is being done in Puerto Rico. Great people. The governor of Puerto Rico, Ricardo Rosello, is a great guy and a leader who is really working hard. So basically to the people of Puerto Rico, do not believe the hashtag fake news, hashtag PR strong. Let me see here.
Didn't he just call out the mayor for leadership issues? I want to say that's the extent to what it his tweets were.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't anything horrible. He was just saying.
Oh, there we go. This is the type of tweet I was looking for. The mayor of San Juan, who was very complimentary only a few days ago, has now been told by Democrats that you must be nasty to Trump. Such poor leadership ability by the mayor of San Juan and the others in Puerto Rico who are not able to get their workers to help. They want everything to be done for them when it should be a community effort. 10,000 federal workers are now on island doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, I didn't see anything wrong about the tweet. I mean, if they're doing a bad job, call them out on it.
It's just interesting to say that because of the fact that the mayor of San Juan was complimenting federal agencies, and now she's saying how they're not doing enough, and so
in a major disaster like that, it's hard to. It's hard. I mean, it kind of just sucks. It's
I think that there is a certain amount of the fact that right now that the Puerto Rican government knows that they are to blame because of the fact that they did not do enough to try and... Remember how I was talking about the Puerto Rico Electric Authority? They did not do enough to try and inspire a free market, so then you have one electrical company massively in debt with poor infrastructure, and that is what happens when there's not competition, when there's not that free market. That one electrical authority means that the entire country now has no electricity. Where if they had, we have Comcast, Time Warner, AT&T,
Those aren't electrical companies.
Oh my goodness. Whatever. We'll talk about internet regulations.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get the point.
Yeah.
There's multiple electric, so therefore, it causes there to be a competition.
Yeah.
I
think we're about done.
So,
Stop. All right.
Patty ice.
Oh my gosh. Well, we appreciate you all for watching. Please like and share this video. Follow
Subscribe.
us on... Yeah, subscribe. That would really help. Pretty much like us on Facebook at the Liberty Lighthouse. Follow us on Twitter at the Liberty LH.
And drop a comment if you have something we want us to cover. If
yeah,
you're,
let us
for
know where you're
example,
from. We want to know where you guys are from. Just give a general state.
like
I don't
Google
need your address.
Analytics. and you know what? If you tell us your address, maybe we'll send you something free. We'll send you something
No,
signed by Trevor.
We're not socialists.
We'll send you
I do
something
nothing
signed by
for free.
While they're watching our video. Which,
Just kidding. I'm a Catholic, so I have to do good works.
Yep. Trevor has mandated community service, and he could send you something signed by him.
Probably not, but maybe.
And we got some exciting things in the works. We do. If you give us enough money, we'll go on tour.
Shut up. All right. All right. We appreciate.
Or just give us money.
Wow. All right. Yeah. Thank you guys a lot for watching, and we will see you next week.
Boom.